Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over NVIDIA stock. Let's talk about what finally happened on NVIDIA stock today, what I personally think about it, what I think is going to happen next, and all of that good stuff as per usual. So ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit that like button. It does help a lot. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section on YouTube is live. That link is down below in the description of the video. For just $3 or $2.99 a month, you get access to all my posts, updates every single day on Tesla stock and just the broader market sometimes as a whole every single day. Or for $5 or $4.99, you get access to all of that, plus a daily NVIDIA posts and updates as well from me, which there have been quite a lot today. As you can see, I was telling my members pretty much about all of this movement, right? Potential breakdown on the 1 hour, but we never closed the 1 hour below it. And we ended up turning it into a bear trap. And this is, you can see the screenshot right here. Obviously went substantially higher. And I think we all know how that played out for the rest of the day. So anyway, let's just jump into it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button, all that stuff. I'm not a financial advisor. You know the drill. So NVIDIA is up a nice, respectable 4%, right, compared to the market. Beautiful outperformance. On the news, the fact that Jensen has apparently officially, at least for now, it said, finished selling shares, right, which is obviously a nice little weight to lift off the stock, kind of back when Elon, quote unquote, finished selling shares. But the news did say for now. So what does that mean? Okay, so I guess he's selling more soon. Maybe he's taking a week off. I don't know. Who knows? But regardless, the stock enjoyed that, right? So let's go in the 1 hour. The 1 hour is where I want to start things off, right? 1 hour is pretty interesting. So pretty much like I said many times, yesterday, we are in this wedge, right? This wedge is a wedge that we were forming, which arguably is a bullish wedge. But again, it's not guaranteed to play out like in a bullish fashion, because you could have argued that this was a bullish flag right here up when we were in the 123 to 130 range, or yeah, right here, right? This was easily could have been viewed as a bull flag. Obviously, it didn't play out as a bull flag, and we pretty much crashed. But this one, thankfully, did play out as a bull flag. I did end up cashing this move, thankfully. I do have covered calls, and now I'm just kind of sitting back and waiting, right? But the thing that's interesting here is the fact that, as we consolidated, we actually had a decent-ish sell-off this morning, right? Where we pretty much sold off the gap up, and then we pretty much almost actually even broke down below, right? As I showed in the screenshot down all the way over here, this one here, right? This is a screenshot I showed in the morning. This is what it looked like. You can see it was getting ready to break down. Obviously, 1 hour closures is usually what I like to look for before really trying to fully decide anything. So if that 1 hour did close looking like that, or even worse, I think this day could have been completely different. But it didn't. That's the most important part. You can see the 1 hour chart, it did not. It went below, never closed, ended up being a bear trap, and pretty much just skyrocketed after that, right? So that was a pretty interesting movement by the stock there, right? Probably getting some people out, paper handing some people out of there before rocketing up like the way it did off the Jensen news. The point is the fact that it broke out of this wedge, which is a good sign. This is a phenomenal sign. I think this is very bullish for NVIDIA, and I think this is looking pretty damn good. But you can see where it rejected, right? Not exactly at my 123 level, but pretty close to it, right? Pretty close to it, pretty much at 122. So not too far off my 123-ish range. And this is generally where I do expect NVIDIA to start finding some resistance, as it so far did this afternoon, we'll say. Personally, what I expect to happen next is this, right? You can see on the 1 hour, right? Again, 1 hour is very aggressive, right? 1 hour indicators show pretty much the next maybe day or two of potential price movement, right? Very overbought. We're still overbought even after this. So what I personally foresee happening next is this. I expect NVIDIA to pretty much, at best case scenario, go sideways for another day or two, maybe even come down to retest this breakout, which will be a retest if it happens, let's say tomorrow, Thursday, 118.5-ish, somewhere around there, 119, 118.5, 118 itself, somewhere around there is where I would expect NVIDIA to have a pretty decent chance of retracing to pretty much just simply retest this breakouts, right? That's kind of what I would expect. So essentially it'll be a move like this, back down like this, and then ultimately make its way back up, or it pretty much does nothing and kind of just goes like this for a bit, right? Just goes sideways. I don't know which one it'll do. I expect one of these two for now, but as long as things hold, right? Ideally, we do get this retest. I think that's more bullish personally, but as long as we do hold this general vicinity and we don't just pretty much crack back under this top green trend line, which is really the only one that matters now, it's bullish. I think NVIDIA is looking pretty damn good moving into potentially the end of the week or next week. I think it's looking pretty solid. I don't think it's looking bearish at all. And I've been saying how NVIDIA is one of my personal, more kind of better setups that I kind of like, because everything in the market looked very overbought except for NVIDIA. But keep in mind, now that NVIDIA did have this spike on the short term, it is overbought, right? Like I said, RSI overbought, stochastic overbought. My bands are signaling that it's overbought, which is why I do, expect potentially a bit of a cool off. But the 4 hour, right? Finally barely entering overbought territories, but it does have a bit more room to the upside. The daily is also not overbought just yet. So there is still more room to the upside. And I still think NVIDIA definitely can move higher. It just, potential cool off or potential retest down is, in my opinion, expected. But as long as it holds, I think 123 at least to actually get to 123, and actually touch it is expected. But I really wouldn't be surprised if we go higher and ultimately on the daily chart, probably come back up to the top of this trend line, which depending on when it happens, will be somewhere around 125. That'll be like my main target from here, which unfortunately isn't like that much higher. But on the bright side, if we can break above this trend line, which at the moment I'm not expecting it to, but if we can, then expect NVIDIA to probably do something like this, maybe make its way up to about $130 per share, then ultimately come back down to retest this trend line, assuming it'll be successful, and make its way up even higher. That's kind of what I would expect, or one scenario, assuming we break out. But unfortunately, another scenario that's a bit more bearish, especially as we head into what in theory should be a very bearish month, October, during an election year. One option, unfortunately, can be the fact that NVIDIA does make its way up regardless to about this, 124, 125, somewhere around there to this trend line, but ultimately gets a rejection and then ultimately slowly makes its way back down to the bottom trend line as well and continues this kind of tightening and this sort of zigzagging until ultimately it picks one of these two directions, which I definitely lean more bullish than bearish. But I wouldn't be surprised if this move right here happens sometime in October, right? That's kind of what I would personally expect. We'll see, of course. No one knows for sure. But if we do move up to 126, roughly 125, my indicators will most likely start flashing some slight overbought territories. And I mean, again, if we get there, we will revisit it and, reevaluate, of course, right? And see how things are looking. But that's kind of the main thing I'm looking at right now. Again, until we really choose a direction, until we really break out of this massive daily, pretty much wedge, if you will, that we're in, I still ultimately expect consolidation. I don't expect us to break out or really make any meaningful move anytime, maybe not anytime soon, but not yet. But, again, if it does break out of one of these areas, we'll expect that move to probably begin sooner than later. But again, pretty much as long as we're within this, range, and as long as we're pretty much just, getting tighter like this, again, you pretty much expect that consolidation, right? So that's kind of what I'm expecting right now, right? We'll see, of course, how it plays out. We'll see what it actually means moving forward. But again, the fact that it broke out, I think NVIDIA is definitely now looking more bullish than bearish, right? It kept holding that 21 EMA. Remember, I kept talking about the 21 EMA despite these falls. Remember how I also said that this breakdown and the fact that we got back above the 21 EMA, to me, tells me this is a false bearish trap. Well, so far that seems to be true, because if you somehow were ballsy enough to buy this, you are up a decent amount. And even if you didn't and you just bought pretty much on these holds of the 21 EMA, you're still doing pretty good. You're still doing pretty damn good for yourself. You're still up about $5 to $6 per share, which is pretty respectable, right? So anyway, that's just the way I looked at it. And again, that's just kind of what I'm expecting. Watch out for that trend line. Watch for 123 to 125. That's pretty much the major area of resistance. And if it does, honestly, move back down sometime in October to 110, 108, wouldn't shock me. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me. It is what it is. I'll always tell you what I see personally. In terms of options flow, NVIDIA was actually the most bullish, right? With about a confirmed 30 million flow. I forgot to mention this in the Tesla video. Tesla was most bearish, 50 million. But NVIDIA with a nice respectable 30 million confirmed bullish flow, which is nice to see, of course. I think the bulls are definitely happy with NVIDIA. But the thing is this. I want to make this a small comparison to AMD, right? NVIDIA and AMD obviously moved somewhat similarly-ish, right? Not to perfection, of course, but, somewhat similarly, right? AMD is looking great too. I actually really like the way AMD is looking long term. Short term, I also think that it's getting kind of toppy here, right? And the reason is because AMD's, you can see massive area of support back here, and now it's entering that area, but now is a resistance, and it's potentially setting up maybe even a double top. But the way I look at this pattern personally is that this actually could be just a rising wedge, similar to what Tesla did back here, right? This situation here where it was the rising wedge with the low 230s as a resistance. I think AMD could be setting up something similar. But unfortunately, I also wouldn't be surprised if AMD makes its way a bit lower, because again, all the indicators are screaming. It's slightly overbought. It gets slightly overbought. My bands are slightly overbought as well. Ultimately, if AMD comes back down to the mid 140s, roughly, mid 140s, I think is phenomenal here if it can get back down there. But even like low 150s to high 140s, I think is a pretty damn good potential opportunity to play out this rising wedge. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because if AMD, and if I personally kind of see this happening for AMD, there is a chance that NVIDIA kind of does a similar move to the downside as well sometime in the near-ish future. So I just thought I'd mention that, but that's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. Maybe just blast off like this. I don't know. But the ideal scenario for me would be boom, set a higher low, come back up to this rising triangle that it's pretty much setting in, which is a bullish pattern, right? Kind of looks like this. and then ultimately break out and make a nice, beautiful move, kind of like what Tesla did after it broke out of its rising triangle as well. Anyway, that's kind of what I'm seeing. That's what I'm expecting, and that's what I'm eyeballing moving forward. So yeah, I don't know. I have a really good gut feeling about AMD, man. I don't know what it is. There's just something about this one that's just, my gut is telling me this could be a massive winner moving forward in the next several months. And yeah, I don't know. That's just what I see, and that's what I'm thinking. So all in all, thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.